Hello. Today we're going to talk about my adverse reaction to amitriptyline. I was prescribed amitriptyline after my hysterectomy when I was experiencing a lot of symptoms of depression. My gynecologist diagnosed it as post-surgical stress disorder and prescribed me amitriptyline. Amitriptyline is used for depression, nerve pain, seizures, and other disorders. It was given to me for depression, not for pain. The first time that I took amitriptyline, I took it before bed because my doctor had let me know that it could make me very sleepy. So I took it before bed and went right to sleep. I woke up early the next morning and did not feel right. I was very, very lethargic. And I looked at the clock and noticed that it was later than I usually get up. And so I really urged myself to get out of bed. And it was incredibly difficult. I felt really heavy and dizzy and not okay. So I managed to get myself sat up in bed, and that's when it hit me. I was very, very dizzy, and I could feel this really weird sensation through my body. And I reached back and shook my husband and I said, "Honey, something's wrong." He said, "What? What's going on?" I said, "I don't know. I don't feel right." And he said, "Okay, do I need to take you to the hospital?" And I said, "I don't think so." And he said, "What's going on?" And I passed out. The next thing I remember is being on the floor of my bedroom with my husband's voice saying, "Come on, honey, I need you to breathe." And I could hear someone on the phone with him, which ended up being the dispatch operator, was telling him, "You might need to resuscitate her." And I could hear them, but I could hardly move, and I was terrified, and I just was forcing breath to come out so that he could hear that I was alive. And he kept saying, "Good job, honey. Yeah, breathe for me, breathe for me." And then I could hear the paramedic telling him, or the dispatcher telling him the paramedics were going to be there soon, to make sure that the door was unlocked and put the dogs in another room. And so he did those things, and then the paramedics were there, and I started seizing, convulsing. The paramedics came in, and I don't even really remember what all they did, but then I remember them sliding the thing under me, the stretcher, and they had to Velcro me onto it, and I'm convulsing and I'm terrified, and I'm like hyperventilating, and everything feels really weird. I have this tingling sensation everywhere, and when the Velcro touched my arm, it felt like 1,000 needles going into me at once, and I just screamed. And they managed to get me loaded up, and they put me in the ambulance, and I remember that the convulsing kind of stopped, but I still couldn't talk. I couldn't move. I couldn't control things that were happening in my body. I could just move my eyes and I was like there, but I wasn't able to control anything. And then I could hear them saying, oh, it's probably just anxiety. She's probably having a panic attack. And I'm thinking in my head, screw you. This is not anxiety. Something is horribly wrong. So we got to the hospital and they put me in a room and, they're freaking out. They don't know what's going on with me. My husband is telling them, she tried a new medication. They had brought the medication with them. And they were convinced that I was having a drug overdose. So then I started having what they call a tachycardic event. Something was happening with my heart. It was speeding extremely high, out of control. They couldn't understand why, and I was seizing again, and I was just making moans and only able to get out jumbled words. And so they asked for all my conditions and everything and started an IV, and they ran my blood, and this whole time they don't know what's going on with me, so they don't know how to treat me. So initially they had just given me Benadryl through the IV, and they had, when I had my tachycardic event, they pulled in the crash pad, and I was so scared. And they didn't have to use it because everything came back down and I was okay. But they ran my blood and finally figured out that yes, I was having an allergic reaction to amitriptyline, adverse reaction. And so they pumped me full of Benadryl and Ativan, and it took a full 24 hours for me to stop shaking and to lose the tingling sensation and everything like that, and I was released the following day. The effects did not completely leave my system for almost a month. I could still feel it inside of me. I was still really sick, like nauseous and very fatigued and dizzy and tired. And it took almost a month to completely work that medication out of my system. It was decided that I had a paradoxical effect, which means that I had the symptoms that the medication was supposed to stop. So since amitriptyline is used for nerve pain and seizures and panic disorders, it gave me all of those things, which is not fun. This was not the first time that I've had a paradoxical effect to a medication. I also had a paradoxical effect to morphine. So morphine gave me a severe amount of pain instead of taking pain away after my hysterectomy. But they assumed that was not a paradoxical effect at the time. They assumed that it was a bubble stuck in my chest, because when you get a hysterectomy, they pump you full of gas. But then after the amitriptyline incident, they decided, no, you have adverse reactions to medications, which I have a whole list of adverse reaction to medications, but the paradoxical effect in particular is something that I have now 2 times proof of. After that, I was prescribed a couple more different anxiety and depression medications, and they did not give me anything like amitriptyline. They only gave me things that are used to treat anxiety and depression. And they too gave me paradoxical effect, where it would give me heightened anxiety or panic attacks, or just a general feeling of oversedation. So I cannot take antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. I cannot take opioids, and I cannot take any nerve medications. So that's fun. So the whole experience was really, really terrifying, and I'm glad that I survived, but it is a cautionary tale. Now I have to start with very baby doses of everything, and I start with, a quarter of a pill and work my way up and make sure that I'm not going to be allergic to it. We're still doing a bunch of investigation into what enzyme is causing me to have these reactions, and it's basically a waiting game to see if or when that will happen again. So this is not a story to make you scared of taking pills. It is just a cautionary tale to be careful, be informed, do your research, talk to your doctors about what you're being given, and start with low doses if you do not feel confident in the medication or your reactions to it. This is especially common with people with EDS. We tend to have a lot of allergy type issues. Many people with Ehlers-Danlos have MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome. It's where the mast cells in your body overreact to allergens, basically. It can be so bad that it has the possibility of killing you. So it's not something to be joked about or made little of. MCAS can be severe. It can be really scary. We are not sure if I have MCAS. It's one of the things that we're, looking into. Testing for that can be pretty difficult. I have to wait until I have a reaction and run my blood at the time of the reaction to test for that. So I haven't been tested because I haven't had another adverse reaction since this. So, thankfully. So, I just wanted to make this video to talk about my experience, and hopefully it helps somebody else who had a similar experience feel like they're not alone, and warn people about the possible effects of drugs, and finding other answers to your issues that maybe are more natural. Try different foods. Can be antidepressant, anti-anxiety. There are supplements that can help with anxiety, such as ashwagandha, yoga, meditation. Try other things instead of maybe jumping right to taking a drug that is not really made for us to take. I don't personally like to take medications unless I really feel like I need to. I personally feel like they pollute your body, and this was an incident where I was feeling not normal, not okay, and very depressed, and that scared me, and I wanted help, and I took the help, and it almost killed me. So I found other alternatives to help with my journey through clinical depression, and you can too. So if you have any questions, post it in the comments, and remember to stay positive.